Hello, and welcome to another session of Random Strangers to Raving Fans. My name is Jennifer Denney. I am the owner of Elevated Marketing Solutions, and I am your instructor today to talk about paid ads. All right, so let's get started. This is one of my most favorite topics, along with SEO. I love SEO as well. But paid ads is where I began my career. And so I know a whole lot about how to drive prospects and move them through your sales funnel and measure those results with paid ads. Okay, so where are paid ads in the funnel? Probably not going to like my answer again. It can be all over, and it should be all over. Paid ads is not about driving in traffic and expecting them to instantly convert. And we will talk about that. So you should use paid ads for all the different aspects. But again, just like SEO, it's another way to drive traffic, but you're actually paying to be there. So it's more of a quote unquote guaranteed way to drive traffic, but you got to make sure it's the right traffic. And paid ads is why you should do it, is because it is the only form where I, with a greater degree of certainty, can ensure that my content will get in front of the right audience. And that's because ads has audience targeting. When you post on organic social media, it's varying a little bit these days, but the stat that kind of gets tossed around is that only 3% of the people who follow you will actually see your content. Now, in today's world of reels and TikToks and shorts and what have you, our content is getting a little bit further, but it's not necessarily getting in front of the people who follow you. In fact, we have very limited information about where that content is going. We can get a little bit of geographic information, maybe some demographic information, but we don't know what their interests are, their behaviors, what they're really into. We don't really know the audience that well. But with ads, you do. This is an interesting fun fact. So, with SEO, you also don't know necessarily what audience is seeing that. Now, you're writing content that should be of interest to your audience and you're pulling them in. But did you know that there are 252,000 new websites being added to Google every day? Remember how I talked about with SEO that you're competing with other websites in order to show in search results? You're competing with 252,000 new websites that are being added every single day. Within every minute that I've been talking, 175 new websites are being added. So, when it comes to organic social media and organic rankings and SEO, you're competing with a lot of people to get your voice heard. When it comes to paid ads, though, and your voice heard and not necessarily in front of people who you want to hear it. When it comes to paid ads, though, I have a greater level of certainty that I can actually get in front of your audience. All right, so where should we start first? So, with all of these platforms, and I'm going to use a couple examples today quite often, not because I don't believe in other types of paid ads, there's lots of them out there, but Google and Facebook ads are probably one of the largest out there. And so I'm going to talk a lot about those. Google has some setup, Facebook has some setup, Google Analytics has some setup. And if you don't go through all the setup, then you're not going to have good, clean data in order to make good decisions. Look, I've been running paid ads for 17 years and I've got a pretty good idea on what's going to work and what's not going to work. but I don't know your particular website and what's not going to work on your website and what we need to fix. If we don't go set up the data first and make sure that we have that information so that we understand with where within the funnel you are not converting, then we're not going to be able to make good data driven decisions when it comes to ads and, quite frankly, your overall marketing. So, just like I talked about, the first thing you want to do is look for your audience. Although I mentioned Google and Facebook, that might not be where your particular audience is. So it's a good idea to set up a lot of these platforms and do the research on those platforms to understand who is able to get in front of your audience, how much of that audience they have available. So a lot of these platforms will kind of give you those metrics. What's the average cost per click? So, we're going to have a supplement to this training where I'm going to give you what the average cost per click, but caution. That is across the entire United States, across all of people who are in your industry. And number one, different geographies will react differently. Number two, a lot of the different areas that are available or service lines don't exactly match up with you do. So it's a good benchmark, but it's not exact. Even some of these tools, like for instance, Google and their keyword planner tool will give you the average cost per click, but that same thing comes into mind where it's across the entire United States and it's across all of your competitors competing for that keyword. And it's really going to kind of vary. But you should have come to mind with the amount of money that you're looking to spend on ads. And when you're doing the research and seeing which platform can get in front of you or get in front of your target audience, then you're going to see how much audience is available and you're going to see the cost and the competition and you're going to kind of weigh the pros and the cons on where to start as far as which platform. But we'll talk about here in a minute kind of the strategy that I would take into consideration when you're doing that. The other reason to go in and set up all these platforms is all of them have a pixel or a little piece of code that gets added to your website and can help you better understand who has been to your website before and help them understand so you can create lookalikes and do remarketing. So, if you don't add that pixel and all of a sudden you decide you want to do remarketing with a lot of these platforms, it doesn't start collecting data until that piece of code is on the website. So, that's why it's another good reason to ensure that you have that piece of code on the website to start gathering that information. So, when you want to do remarketing, which you should be doing remarketing right at the beginning, but you might not want to do remarketing on a particular platform. So, I just talked about, Google ads and Facebook ads. You should be using multiple platforms. Even if you find all of your audience, you found it really good, it's cost effective, and it's on one platform or the other. You shouldn't just choose to put all your eggs in one basket for a couple reasons. Only if your budget is really, really small should you go with one platform. However, that's still not probably the ideal situation because you want to market to people at the top of the funnel who don't know who you are, and at the bottom of the funnel, people who have interacted with you before. And by nature, Google Ads tends to be at the bottom of the funnel. It can be in different places, but let's kind of talk about it. So, with the Google search, the most common way that people use Google Ads, I am directly searching for your product or service, probably by the keywords that I would choose. Now, there are some keywords that can get chosen that are not necessarily directly ready to purchase yet. So, a lot of times people use Google Ads because hey, I already want you. I want to be directly there, which is great. But if nobody has ever heard of you before, they're not likely to click on you and they're not likely to do business with you within the first time of seeing you. In fact, 95% of people do not make that buying decision on the first time of coming into a website. So it's not a good idea to put all of your money into Google Ads because you're leaving 95% of people on the table. Now, by nature, on the flip side, Facebook tends to be more of at the top of the funnel. I go to Facebook to be entertained and social media. I'm not there necessarily to buy unless maybe I'm a retail and I'm selling a dress or shoes. Think about those things last minute at the counter that you might end up buying. Those are things that are real good that you might be there. But I'm going to be more in the research phase and I'm going to learn more about your business and understand what your products and services are. And so when I do go to search, if I have had been served Google or Facebook ads that have made me more familiar with your brand, understand your products or service, understand how you can help me and why you are better, then I am more likely to actually make that purchase. So hopefully it makes sense as to why you should have both of those different platforms. I just talked about it, but just to flip the statistic in a different way, 5% of people make a decision on the first pass of a website. 5%. 95% do not. So you want to make sure that you are following up with them and you are doing remarketing, which we will talk about in just a minute. All right. We mentioned it, but let's talk about it again. So, advertising to all parts of the funnel, both top of funnel and bottom of the funnel, or remarketing. So, Google Ads can actually be top of the funnel as well, because what you might not know is Google Ads also has the Google Display Network, which is about 95% of websites out there on the internet. You see ads that are on site on those websites. That is the Google Display Network. If you see a little blue ads, that's probably Google. Those are people who don't know who you are, and so you should be advertising to there as well. Google also owns YouTube, got Gmail marketing, Discover, and lots of other places that you can show. And so Google Ads can be top of the funnel marketing as well as bottom of the funnel, not just with search, but with those display ads, you can put them in front of people who have only interacted with you before. So there's lots of ways to kind of slice and dice it. Now, with Facebook ads, you can also build the entire funnel just within Facebook, and you should. People are all over the internet, they're not on one form or the other. So, we want to take your entire budget and kind of move it through all of these different, platforms and make sure we're dividing it between the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. Just a reminder, you got to make sure when you're going back on that setup and you're setting up your data that you have added the pixels so that you can remarket to people. So you can do remarketing in many social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, what have you. They all have the ability to remarket. Google has the ability to remarket. And then there are even platforms out there that do nothing but remarketing, but a lot of it can be done just within there. Okay. So you've kind of determined your overall budget by looking at the audience and the average cost and how much traffic that you want to bring to your website. Oh, by the way, how much traffic do I want to bring? Mm, Remember that stat? The 5% will convert. So, how much traffic do you need to the website in order to pull out how many leads you need? It's a mathematical formula. All right. So, once you have that budget, you need to divide it 70% at the top of the funnel and 30% at the bottom of the funnel. Which platform you use for top of funnel and bottom of the funnel really depends on the cost involved and how well they can get in front of your target audience. So there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. A business should really look at what they're comfortable with walking away. If you don't have a lot of traffic being driven to your website right now, ads is a great way to put your content in front of a target audience and see whether or not they actually respond to it. And so when you do that, you might find that you have to pause ads and go back because your content is not really resonating with your target audience. And so you need to go back and adjust it. So, this is why I'm saying you need to be comfortable with walking away with whatever you spend and not expecting a return. Although ads is quicker and you can get to results quicker to understand what's working and what's not working, it's not an instantaneous success. You don't just start putting money in there and start instantly driving business. It's kind of like how you built your own business. You don't just start opening it up and put an LLC in it and instantly start making money. You've got to build it just like you did, figure out what's working, what's not working, and make those adjustments. All right. So let's talk about the strategy of the campaign. Really need to consider what your buying cycle is for this. So, some people are going to have a shorter buying cycle, and some people are going to have a longer buying cycle, and they're going to see more pieces of information. Going back to that stat, only 5% of people are going to see enough information on one shot that they're going to be able to make that decision right then and there. So, depending on what your ad budget is, let's say, for instance, you have a really long sales cycle. You might want to drive people in and perhaps have a downloadable piece of content that somebody is giving up their email in order to get their email and then finish the cycle of their process in doing business with you with email marketing. That is a great way for a long buying cycle in order to get somebody involved with you and kind of work them through the funnel. Now, if you have a shorter cycle, perhaps you have top of the funnel content where you're introducing them to your product or service. You're really hitting them with that pain point of what is it that you are able to solve for them. And you're giving them bits of information. But then at the bottom of the funnel, perhaps you're hitting them with an offer or limited time available, scarcity principle, testimonials from other clients. There's lots of ways to kind of close the deal per se, but you've got to build that funnel. And again, you can build the funnel within the platform, but more than likely, you're using multiple platforms in order to tell the story of your product or service. So, also, going along with the strategy is setting up the campaign objectives. So, all of these platforms, when you go to set them up, it's asking you to choose a marketing objective. And a lot of times people see the one that says conversions or leads and they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I want that one. If you choose that one and the platform doesn't have a whole lot of information on what a conversion or a lead is for you, for instance, you didn't set up your data that we talked about in the beginning, then it doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to optimize for something that they don't understand. So you can't choose that objective till you get enough traffic coming in order for it to fully understand. So you might have to set up conversion objectives that is a little bit before somebody is actually making that purchase, form fill, or phone call. For instance, you could set up that a conversion fires for somebody that comes into a website, spends a certain amount of time, and scrolls so far down the page. That is pretty good quality traffic. And you could say, hey, Facebook or hey, Google, go find more people like that. Now, that makes a lot of sense. Another thing that you can consider with campaign objective is building those audiences to remarket to. So, for instance, on social media platforms like Facebook, I can choose a reach objective. So, get in front of as many people as possible within this audience. I could choose a video objective. So, people willing to watch my video. And I can pay a little less money, a lot less money in some scenarios where maybe I'm only paying a couple pennies for someone to watch a 15-second video. Once I know that they have actually stopped scrolling in social media, which is the first thing that you are balancing with, and then they're actually willing to watch a video, I've got somebody pretty well interested that I can follow up with that remarketing and give them the next benefits in order to get to the next step. So there's lots of things to consider when it comes to campaign objectives, and you can't just choose the conversion right out of the gate. You really kind of got to build that funnel. You also might and are likely going to have multiple campaigns with multiple marketing objectives to meet people down that funnel. All right. So, campaign layout, just to talk a little bit about that. So, with Facebook ads, it's called ad sets. With Google ads, it's called ad groups. We've been talking about campaigns. So, first there's the campaign, then there's the ad sets, and that's usually your audience targeting within Facebook ads. And then in Google ads, that's going to be like the keywords that you would choose or your particular audience targeting that you would choose. Remember, depending on your budget, you don't want to have too many campaigns and too many ad sets because it's going to be harder to get enough data in order to make good data driven decisions. So, you don't want to spread it out too much because you want to do all this testing because it's going to take you longer in order to see what's working and what's not working. It's easier to kind of move up funnel and test that audience first and then start to test different elements of the campaign. You're not going to hit it out of the park on the very first time that you create a campaign. And so this takes a lot of different testing to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. The creatives in your campaign are super important. No matter where you're at, if you can't grab somebody's attention with the imagery, text, and more, then it doesn't matter because they're never going to see your ad. They're going to be blind to it. So you have to think about that and you have to think about the audience that you're speaking to and what is going to resonate with them. Generic ad copy, generic images are not going to get someone to get involved with you. Remember that you have to make creative too for the very first time that somebody is interacting with you to the bottom of the funnel where they have interacted with you before and you're looking for those closing elements in order to get them to the next stop. This is also an item that you're going to have to constantly be creating more creative. Even if you hit it off the mark at the beginning, people are going to get ad blindness and they're going to start ignore your ad because they've seen it too many times. So creative is a very important aspect to it. All right. Landing page. So your landing page needs to match the ad and what you're asking them to do. No matter if it is in Google search or in Facebook ads, you're teasing them with just a little bit of information and you're trying to get them to make the next step and get to the landing page. If the landing page doesn't match where they were at before, they're going to quickly get confused, quickly back out, and you're going to waste the money that you have spent. So, really make sure that that landing page is matching and answering the questions that perhaps you teased in the initial ad. All right. So, we've set up this perfect campaign. And like I said earlier, it's not going to necessarily work right off the gate. There are metrics within each of these platforms that will give me indications of where people are getting stuck within the funnel. So there's all the way from, let's say, the reach metric in Facebook and how many people I'm getting in front of, to the frequency, how often are they seeing my ad, to are they actually engaging with the ad? Are they stopping scrolling? Are they actually engaging with it? To did they actually click through? Did they get to the website? How much time did they spend on the website? How many pages did they go to? Did they scroll down? There is somewhere along that funnel of the ad where they are potentially getting stuck. And that's where I need to go make adjustments and optimize the ads to get better results. There's definitely never a set it and forget it. Always make data driven decisions. There is not a day in my career as a digital marketer where I'm not using data driven decisions in order to decide what's working and what's not working. It's super important, and there are a ton of metrics within these platforms that will tell you what is working and what's not working and what to do with that information. All right, that's it for paid ads. Take care and have a wonderful day.